I have discovered something unexpected to me, but it's super cool. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, its Dualsense implementation is amazing. It's definitely jumped up my list to number one as far as when I show PS5 to people, what game am I going to show them? So, of course, after all the talk about how DualSense is haptic feedback and adaptive triggers are really cool, provide these new novel experiences, of course, I opened the system and thought, all right, I'm going to find a game that has the best DualSense features. So of course I went to PlayStation first-party games. Astrobot, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Sackboy, A Big Adventure. They're not what I expected. I thought, for example, Sackboy, people have been talking about how you can feel the grains of sand hitting you as you're walking through a sandstorm, or how all of the surfaces that Sackboy walks across feel different. That is all technically true. I thought it would be a sense of realism. You would feel like sand, like you had sand in your hands, or you had something metal in your hands, and I could not wrap my brain around, well, how is a advanced rumble motor going to reproduce those types of sensations? But when I actually tried it, that is not what it is. It's more like there's a whole bunch of different types of rumble that you can get. So for example, the DualShock 4, there was sort of a very small number of different types of rumble. You could have sort of this fine rumble on one side of the controller, and then you had this more blunt, bigger feeling kind of rumble, and you could turn on both at the same time. With DualSense's actuators, there's a lot more different types of things that they could do. They can do these little touches. Anyways, I was not expecting Call of Duty, the big annual multi-platform title, although partnered with PlayStation these days, I didn't expect them to have something really special until I tried it. Now, I was all on the side of haptics being the thing that would really set PlayStation games apart. But actually, it's the adaptive triggers in Cold War that are just so cool the way they've done it. In fact, I don't think there's any vibration at all beyond the triggers. So, what's it like? You've played shooters. You pull the left trigger to aim down sights, and then you pull the right trigger to fire. In Cold War on PS5, they've done it in such a way where there is weight when you pull the trigger to aim down sights. Not exactly, but it feels like it's synchronized to how quickly you bring up the sights on the gun. So instead of, in the past, you just sort of pull the trigger and there's no resistance. It hits the limit of the trigger, and then you wait basically for the on-screen action to happen. It's most pronounced in like sniper rifles, right? You pull the trigger and then you wait for the scope to come up to your eye. But with this, you cannot pull the trigger all the way down to the limit faster than the animation happens. It's sort of synced with the animation. Like the first time it happened, it felt really weird, but also kind of awesome. You can understand what I was saying before, right? This isn't realism. You were always holding the gun, so the weight of the gun was always in your hands, like in game. So pulling the trigger to lift it up, you wouldn't necessarily feel like, oh, I'm pushing against the force of gravity to lift this gun up to my eye to aim. But in a game, the way they communicate it with the trigger requiring that force to push it all the way in, to bring the sights all the way up to your eyes, it's so immersive. And then you fire the gun, and oh my gosh, every single gun feels different on the right trigger. And it's so cool. I didn't imagine this type of, it almost feels like rumble, the way it works, or the way it seems to work. And the one that I was able to feel it most clearly was with pistols. At first, when you pull the trigger, it is very difficult. Like the first, maybe fourth of a way in is very difficult. And then you pull past like a threshold, and then it becomes very easy the rest of the way to the maximum pull length of the trigger. I don't know if you can imagine that just from that description, but it is so cool. It feels like a Nerf gun. You're pulling the trigger and you can feel sort of like the tension of the little lock that's holding the spring, and then once the little hook on the lock releases the spring, then there's no more resistance on the hook, which is connected to the trigger, and then you can pull it all the way. I did not consider that they could alter the resistance of the trigger along the entire pull path of the trigger button. You can imagine it as sort of, let's use a chair. You're dragging a chair over carpet, then you hit hardwood, then you go over carpet, and you would have different speeds along that pull, kind of like that with the trigger. The pistol is that one example, but once you get to burst fire guns, it feels like the trigger catches at every sort of bullet ejection point when you have like the 3-fire burst. It is crazy. And that's what I've been talking about. Novel new experiences. I feel like the game feels better because of the way the triggers work. I still have a lot of other games to try out, so I don't know that this ranking will hold as I play the rest of the launch lineup, but for now, I think Black Ops Cold War is the game that you bring out to show your friends when they come check out your PS5. Alright, that's it.